two main types of nucleic acids are deoxyribonucleic acid, which is the DNA, and ribonucleic acid, which is the RNA. So the DNA, it is the genetic material that found in all living organisms. It is ranging from single-celled bacteria to multicellular mammals. It is also found in the nucleus of eukaryotes and in the organelles, chloroplasts and mitochondria. In prokaryotes, the DNA is not enclosed in a membranous envelope. So the entire genetic content of a cell is known as its genome. And the study of genomes is genomics. So in eukaryotic cells, the DNA forms a complex with histone proteins to form chromatin, so the substance of eukaryotic chromosomes. A chromosome may contain tens of thousands of genes. Many genes contain the information to make protein products. The other genes code for RNA products. So the DNA controls all of the cellular activities by turning the genes on or off. The DNA molecules never leave the nucleus, but instead use an intermediary to communicate with the rest of the cell. This intermediary is the messenger RNA, which is the mRNA. The other types of RNA like rRNA, tRNA, and microRNA are involved in protein synthesis and its regulation.
RNA. It is mainly involved in the process of protein synthesis under the direction of DNA. RNA is usually single-stranded and is made of ribonucleotides that are linked by phosphodiester bonds. A ribonucleotide in the RNA chain contains ribose, one of the 4 nitrogenous bases, and the phosphate group. There are 4 types of RNA: messenger RNA, ribosomal RNA, transfer RNA, and microRNA. The first mRNA carries the message from the DNA, which controls all the cellular activities in a cell. If a cell requires a certain protein to be synthesized, the gene for this product is turned on, and the messenger RNA is synthesized in the nucleus. The RNA base sequence is complementary to the coding sequence of the DNA from which it has been copied. However, in cytoplasm, the mRNA interacts with ribosomes and other cellular machinery. The mRNA is read in sets of 3 bases known as codons. Each codon codes for a single amino acid. In this way, the mRNA is read and the protein product is made. Ribosomal RNA is a major constituent of ribosomes on which the mRNA binds. The rRNA ensures the proper alignment of the mRNA and the ribosomes. The RNA of the ribosomes also has an enzymatic activity and catalyzes the information of the peptide bonds between 2 aligned amino acids. Transfer RNA is one of the smallest of the 4 types of RNA, usually 70 to 90 nucleotides long. It carries the correct amino acid to the site of protein synthesis. It is base pairing between the DNA and mRNA that allows for the correct amino acid to be inserted in the polypeptide chain. MicroRNAs are the smallest RNA molecule, and their role involves the regulation of gene expression by interfering with the expression of certain mRNA messages. Table 3.5.1 below summarizes features of DNA and RNA. DNA and RNA are made up of monomers known as nucleotides. The nucleotides combine with each other to form a polynucleotide, DNA or RNA. Each Each nucleotide is made up of three components: a nitrogenous base, a pentose sugar, and a phosphate group. Each nitrogenous base in a nucleotide is attached to sugar molecule, which is attached to one or more
Examples of
phosphate.
nucleic acid. Uracil, a compound found in living tissue as a constituent base of RNA. In DNA, its place is taken by thymine. Adenine, a chemical compound that is used to make one of the building blocks of DNA and RNA. It is also a part of many substances in the body that gives energy to cells.
Examples of nucleic acid. Guanine, compound that occurs in guano and fish scales. It is one of the four constituent bases of nucleic acids. A purine derivative, it is paired with cytosine in double-stranded DNA. Cytosine, compound found in living tissues as a constituent base of nucleic acids. It is paired with guanine in double-stranded DNA. Thymine, compound which is one of four constituent bases of nucleic acids. A pyrimidine derivative, it is paired with adenine in double-stranded
Nucleic acids are the most important macromolecules for the continuity of life. They carry the genetic blueprint of a cell and carry instructions for the functioning of the cell. There are two main types of nucleic acids: DNA or deoxyribonucleic acid and RNA or ribonucleic acid. Nucleic acids are large molecules made up of smaller molecules called nucleotides. The nucleotide in these molecules are linked together through covalent bonds or bonds of electrons shared between atoms. The nucleotide that make up the DNA have three parts: a phosphate group, a nitrogenous base, and the deoxyribose sugar or 5-carbon sugar. The phosphate group consists of a phosphate bonded to 4 oxygen atoms, with one of the oxygen bonded to the number 5 carbon of the deoxyribose sugar. And the number 2 carbon of the deoxyribose sugar is bonded to a hydrogen atom, while the carbon number 1 of deoxyribose sugar is bonded to the nitrogenous base. There are 4 types of nitrogenous bases that can be found in DNA: adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. Adenine and guanine have double ring structures, and cytosine and thymine have single ring structures. Adenine and guanine are called purine bases, and cytosine and thymine are called pyrimidine bases. DNA is a double-stranded nucleic acid, and its molecules take on a helical formation. Each helical chain has its phosphate sugar group toward the outside, and the nitrogenous bases facing inwards toward nitrogenous bases of the other chain. Each of the bases on one chain is joined to the base of the other chain through either 2 or 3 hydrogen bonds. Thymine and adenine are joined by 2 hydrogen bonds, and cytosine and guanine are joined by 3 hydrogen bonds. Thymine and adenine are always the base pair, and cytosine and guanine are always the base pair. It's estimated that DNA molecules contain more than 100 million of these base pairings. And in one individual body, the sequence of base pairings is the same in every DNA molecule, so this sequence of the base pairings is unique to each individual. DNA is often called the information molecule because it contains the master code needed to make various DNA molecules and protein molecules. The nucleotides that make up RNA are very similar to those make up DNA. RNA nucleotides have a phosphate group with the same structure in DNA. They have a 5-carbon sugar, but the number 2 carbon is bonded to a hydroxyl OH group instead of a lone hydrogen atom and this sugar called ribose. It also consists of the three same nitrogenous bases as DNA, cytosine, adenine, and guanine. But it does not contain thymine. Instead, it contains uracil, which is a single ring structure like thymine, making it a pyrimidine base. Most RNA molecules are single-stranded nucleic acids, and many times they form a folded compacted structure with some hydrogen bonding taking place within the pairs of the molecules. These pairings are the same as in DNA. Cytosine and guanine are the base pair, and uracil takes the place of thymine and pairs with adenine. RNA is extremely important in the process of forming different proteins in the body.